everyone. Welcome to the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. Glad that you're with us again this week. Thank you for tuning in, be it from YouTube, from iHeartRadio, from any device you're listening to this show on. We're glad that you're with us. We have a big show today. Hall of Fame jockey Sandy Hawley is on. He'll talk about his 31-year career, over 6,400 wins, and his involvement with the National Hockey League's Los Angeles Kings, and he was very involved with them for 6 years. More about that later. President of Spendthrift Farm, and aren't they still celebrating as they should with their Derby win with Authentic? Eric Gustafson, who has been a key role in rebuilding that farm for the last 16 years. And Eric will be joining us shortly to tell us a little bit about what it's been like, all the excitement out there for Mr. B. Wayne Hughes, the owner of the farm, and everyone involved with Authentic's victory in the Derby, and what's ahead for not only Authentic, but 1,000 Words. Are they both going on to the Preakness? All that coming up. Big show. Stay with us. Sandy Hawley is up next. Eric Gustafson coming up later on. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. Delighted to have this gentleman on with us, and he is truly a gentleman as well as one of the great riders of all time, winning 6,450 races. He's in the Hall of Fame in the U.S. and Canada, his native country, and he joins us now, Sandy Hawley. Sandy, thanks for being on.
Kenny, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much, and it's an honor to be on with a Hall of Famer as well. You're a Hall of Famer as well.
Well, you're kind to say that. I'm just a guy that shows up and talks to all the great ones like you. And, you know, I was looking back on your career. We had Lafitte Penkai Jr. on several weeks ago, and he was singing your praises. And really, you know, we were talking specifically about that riding colony. And I know you started like at 19 years old in Woodbine, which is a beautiful track just out of Toronto, which is your home area. But when you go to Southern California, you know, you want all these things in Canada, but you really make your mark there. And what a great riding colony. I mean, everybody, you know, I'll start rattling them off and miss somebody. We mentioned, obviously, Penkai, and Shoemaker was there, and McCarran was there, and Delahousse. And you go down there, and it's like every other guy was in the Hall of Fame, it seems.
Oh, there was a guy there called Gary Stevens, too, and
Gary's going to call me for omitting this name, by the
way. another guy that was just starting out, and we were actually in the same corner, Steve Cawthon.
Yeah.
Well, it was a great riding colony for sure, Kenny. And they're going to have to send Lafitte $100 for saying so many nice things about me. But I could say so many great things about him as well. In fact, there was a reporter asked myself. He said, "Who's the greatest rider you ever rode against?" I said, well, Shoemaker was great, but hooking at the head of the stretch with Lafitte Penkai, you better have your riding boots on. He was probably the toughest. And then I heard that he had said the same thing about me, which that was great honor.
Yeah, that's what he said. And you know, there is something about that. And you know, a jockey, I have been told by trainers that, you know, a jockey can easily move a horse up. If everybody's kind of on equal footing and you get a jockey that fits that horse well, you know, it can move them up a length. And as we know how close a horse race can be, how big a length or a length and a half in a horse race can be huge. What is the to a horse and rider just working in tandem so well, Sandy?
Yeah, you know what's crazy, Kenny, is sometimes other people get along better with horses than I did. And you're right, vice versa. I could win on a horse that another jockey goes, how in the heck did you get that horse to win? But I've had, you know, the shoe in the other foot before, too, and I've ridden a horse and couldn't get the horse to win, and all of a sudden this other rider rides when he wins, and I go, holy cow, how did that happen? But you know what? It's just some riders fit some horses better. Yeah, chemistry.
Can you tell when you get on a horse that, you know, you get a pretty good feeling right off, especially, I guess, a horse that, you know, you haven't ridden before? It's a big race. You get the instructions, some of the basics of what the trainer's looking for. I know you've studied the form, so you know how it's basically supposed to play out. When you start getting a feel as you're coming from the paddock to the starting gate in a very few minutes, you know, you have to either get a feel or not, I guess.
Well, you know, that's a good question. And, you know, of course, you get instructions in the paddock from the owner and sometimes or from the trainer, and sometimes the owner as well. And sometimes, Kenny, I've got instructions from the owner in the paddock, and then the trainer comes running behind me, says, don't listen to a word he says. ride them the way you want, and it's almost like, okay, I better try and do something in between. But I remember the great Don Brumfield as well.
Oh, yeah.
Gave him instructions in the paddock, and Don Brumfield said to the guy, he says, "Sir, we're only going a mile and 16th. I don't think I could follow all those instructions in a mile and 16th." But he was quite a character, and he had a great sense of humor. But you know what? You look at the racing form before you go out, and so when you go in the paddock, you have an idea of how the race will run, and you can also comment on some of the instructions that you're getting. But you get a feel of the horse when you're in post parade, and I always liked a horse that was cool, calm, and collected. I've had a few horses that were really high strung in post parade that ran well, but I think some of the better ones were more relaxed going to the starting gate. So if you have one of those, it's almost like, oh, I think this horse has got a lot of class.
Yeah. Do you remember some of the craziest instruction, or maybe how about this? How about like the best instruction that you ever got from a trainer getting ready to get on a horse? Maybe they just said, "Hey, Sandy, good luck, hop on."
Well, yeah, use your own judgment, and that's usually what got me beat. Use my own judgment, but I did ride a horse for Mike Mitchell. When you mentioned that, this came into my mind right away. And I remember it was when I first went to California. Mike Mitchell was one of the top trainers there at the time. I think him and Bobby Frankel were always battling for leading trainer. And Mike Mitchell said to me, this horse had a burr bit, which is a bit that stops a horse from drifting out. So he had a burr bit on the outside, and Mike said, you know what, this horse is always going to the lead. And he said, I just want you to try and get him to come from a little bit off the pace. So, and we were going a mile and 16th. So we were in like the 3-hole or something like that. And I remember going into the first turn, and with that burr bit, it stops him from lugging out. But he started lugging out just a little bit, and I went to just touch his mouth, and he threw his head in the air, and he ran over everybody's heels, and I ended up way on the outside. So after I came back after the race, I think I finished 3rd or 4th or something. Mike Mitchell, he just comes stomping up, and I thought he was going to give me heck. But he said, "You've won over 5,000 races and you listen to an idiot like me?" So you do get some crazy instructions, and sometimes you have to go to plan B.
Well, it always worked for Sandy Hawley. Sandy Hawley's won over 6,450 races in all. He was the first jockey to win 500 races in a single year, and breaking the record of one Bill Shoemaker when he did it at that time. And you start out, you're a kid. I think you're walking hots and things like that as a teenager. I believe 19 was your first professional race at Woodbine, and things just, I think with all the great ones, you can just see it starts off well, and it's not by coincidence it starts off well. When did you know that you might be pretty good at this, Sandy?
Well, actually, I've been very lucky, Kenny. I've been in the right place at the right time. I started out with a trainer from Winfield Farms, actually in Oshawa, where I grew up, or the Great Northern Dancer, owned by Mr. E.P. Taylor. I went to his farm looking for a job, and luckily Mr. Campbell was there. He took me under his wing and taught me the fundamentals about riding. And then he introduced me to a gentleman that was going to be my agent, and agents are very, very important to riders. And his name was Colin Wick. And then when I look back now, I go, wow, he was the best agent ever in Canada. You can ask anybody. And he also, in my mind, I think he was one of the best, if not the best agents in North America. And so I had those two guys on my side, so I could hardly miss. But, I remember, when I first started out, Colin was my agent, and he was getting me better and better mounts all the time, and our business really took off. And as you mentioned, we ended up breaking Mr. Shoemaker's record. I think it was 1973. And actually, the Mr. Shoemaker, I call him Mr. Shoemaker, but I did meet him in California. He said, "Just call me Shoe." I didn't realize he was the biggest prankster in the jocks room. But he ended up, he called me and he congratulated me. His record lasted for 25 years, and he called me and congratulated me in the jocks room afterwards. And, wow, what a great honor to hear from Mr. Shoemaker. And so I thought, wow, his record lasted for 25 years. Maybe mine will last for 25, 30 years. You never know. Guess what? My buddy Chris McCarron broke my record the next year.
That Chris McCarron, you knew he would do that.
That Chris McCarron guy. I better beat him at golf tomorrow. I'm playing golf with him tomorrow. I better kick his butt tomorrow.
How good are you at golf?
I'm average. I'm probably about a 16 handicap. I used to be maybe about a 10, but you get a little bit older and you can't swing as far, or can't take it back as far. And my wife Carew here, she's just taken up the game too, and she said the ball's too small. We need the balls need to be bigger.
Yeah. Well, Carew, your lovely wife, was also a writer, and you were telling me a story just before we went on about writing, exercising one morning for Mark Cassie. It's a great story.
Actually, she was in a race for Mark Cassie, and it was at a racetrack called River Downs, and it was when Mark was just starting out, and of course Mark put Carew on this horse, and the horse was running dynamite for her. Got to the head of the stretch, the horse was in front. Unfortunately, the horse decided he doesn't want to be in the race anymore. He made a right-hand turn at the head of the stretch, made a right-hand turn, went over the outside fence. Carew stayed on. And she went all the way to the parking lot. And this is a true story, Kenny. The horse slipped. Carew fell off. A gentleman came up and tapped her on the shoulder. And she looked up and said, "Don't worry, sir, I'm okay." He said, "That'll be $3 for parking, please."
That's a great story. And Carew, staying with that horse all the way. That's great.
She did. And Mark Cassie told her after the race, "I might enter this horse in a steeplechase. If I do, I'm going to name you on."
Perfect. And we're talking with Hall of Famer Sandy Hawley here on the Horse Racing Show. Don't go away. Quick break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back into the Horse Racing Show. Kenny Rice with you. Glad that you've joined us again this week, and really delighted to catch up with Sandy Hawley, the Hall of Fame. Not only the Hall of Fame jockey, but a Hall of Fame person. He really is one of the best out there, and that's witnessed by winning the George Wolfe Award. People are familiar probably with the great George Wolfe, and they give an award out each year to the jockey that personifies personal and professional conduct on and off the track. So one of the many awards that Sandy has won. When I look back on your career, Sandy, and it's always tough, especially when you win over 6,400 races, but I'm thinking Ancient Title, Kennedy Road, Dahlia, Golden Act. I mean, some of the horses you've ridden. Do you have a favorite 2 or 3 horses out there? Maybe even not a great horse, but a horse that for whatever reason you just enjoyed riding.
Well, there was one horse called Youth that I won the Canadian International, the Washington D.C. Internationals on. He retired as a 3-year-old. He may have been the best horse I ever rode. He won the Canadian International by 5, the Washington D.C. International by 10 lengths. And if you put that into perspective, Kenny, that's like the Breeders' Cup Turf now, Breeders' Cup Turf Classic, and he would win that race by 8 or 10 lengths. He was just the best horses in the world used to run in those races back then on the turf, and he was absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, I just got to ride him twice in his career, but he may have been the best. But probably my favorite was a horse called Shankite. And you probably never heard of him, but he ended up, he set a track record in California going 6.5. And he was also a type of horse that he ran hard every single time. And he was the most perfect horse to ride in post parade. He could have ponied the pony. He was so relaxed and cool, calm and collected. And I think I rode him pretty well every start of his career. I must have ridden him like 20 times. And he probably won at least more than half of those races. He was just absolutely amazing. He was owned by Sama and Manny Uko, and he was just a tremendous horse, probably my favorite horse of all time.
Wow. See, I love those kind of stories because, it's automatic. People ask me, who's your favorite horse of all time? And, it's hard for me to say. And Pharaoh, I got to be honest, American Pharaoh, just the whole relationship I've had with Bob Baffert over the years and him winning that, win the Triple Crown. But, there's others that just kind of capture your fancy for whatever reason. And that's what I love about the sport. And I also like the fact that there's so many different things about the people in the sport like you. Now, am I right on this, that at one time you were the penalty timekeeper for the Los Angeles Kings?
Yeah, I was, Kenny. That was a few years ago. But when I was riding in California, first thing I wanted to do is, of course, I'm a hockey fan, Toronto Maple Leafs fan, but I ended up becoming an LA Kings fan as well because I lived there for 10 years. And I decided when I first went there, boy, I want to see if I can get some season tickets for the LA Kings. And I'll tell you, getting season tickets for the LA Kings back then was a lot easier than getting tickets for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I ended up getting season's tickets, and actually Chris McCarron, who was my best friend in California, we had season's tickets together. And I remember the gentleman that run the clock, I became good friends with him. We used to play, Bill Murris. We used to play golf together, and he used to come to the races a lot, and he'd come up to my seats every once in a while and say hello before the hockey game started. Well, one night, Kenny, he came up and he said, Sandy, no pun intended, but I'm short a guy to work in the penalty box tonight. Can you come down and work in the box? And honest to God, my heart started beating like I'm getting ready to ride in the Queen's Plate or the Kentucky Derby. I said, Bill, are you serious? He says, yeah, I need you if you can do it. And I said, well, what do I have to do? And he said, well, write down the time the guy goes in, when he gets out, and just watch the clock and let him out at the appropriate time. He says, I'm going to be running the clock. He was the boss of the off-ice officials. He said, I'm going to be running the clock, so if you have any problems, I'll be right there for you. I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. I went down and I did it, and I had a great time. I loved it. That's where the action was, and the players come in, and they're all upset, throw their equipment down, and sometimes they want to talk to you and say how bad a call it was, and of course you're going to agree with them every time. They're a little bit bigger than I am. And I told Bill afterwards, I said, Bill, you know what? I had a great time. Anytime you need me to do it again, I'll do it. And he said, I got a guy retiring next year if you want to do it full time. Well, Kenny, I let my season tickets go that next year, and I probably did it for like 6 years. I worked in the penalty box for the LA Kings.
Wow. That sounds like a pressure job to me, making sure that you don't get caught up in the game as a fan. And you forget to write something down. But obviously you did it well to keep doing it for 6 years for the Kings.
Well, it's not bad if you have one or two players in there. But one time, I think they were playing the Vancouver Canucks, and a big brawl broke out, and I had 6 guys in the box at one time. It was a little bit crowded. And one other story, I remember one time a guy went to leave the box. You know, I counted him down, and he got his equipment ready and everything, and he went to jump on the ice, and I think I was looking up at the clock or something, and I closed the door on his foot, and down he went. I don't think I've ever seen that happen either, and it's a good thing it wasn't the playoffs. And lucky for me, the whistle blew. But one of the things that I do remember, Kenny, working in there is when Wayne Gretzky got traded to the LA Kings.
Oh, yeah.
And Bernie Nichols, who is a good friend of mine, he says, Sandy, you're not going to believe it, but Gretzky's going to be playing for us next year. They're trading for Gretzky. And I thought he was crazy, but in the papers next couple of days, here it is, Mr. Pocklington traded Wayne Gretzky, and Marty McSorley's coming with Wayne Gretzky as well. And I thought, wow, I'm going to get to know Wayne pretty well. Well, I got to know Wayne a little bit, but I got to know Marty McSorley really well.
Yeah.
He was in there all the time.
That's going to say, I remember that McSorley lived in that box.
He used to actually come in and say, a little shit, I didn't get another penalty to come in and see you again. But he ended up becoming a good friend, that's for sure. But it was a lot of fun, pretty exciting, but I really enjoyed it.
Hey, Eddie Olczyk, our friend Eddie Olczyk, was he ever in that penalty box?
Oh, Eddie O was in there a couple times as well. Yeah, for sure. And I do remember a gentleman called Paul Coffey. You probably remember that name as well. Hall of Fame hockey player, defenseman. He came in the box and he said, excuse me. He was playing for Edmonton at the time, of course. He said, the boys over there said you're Sandy Hawley. And I said, yes, Paul, I am. And he said, well, my dad used to take me to races at Woodbine. I remember he used to bet on you all the time. He took his glove off and he said, nice to meet you. And I stood up off my chair and I said, nice to meet me. I said, it's an honor to meet you. And so that was pretty cool as well.
See, you're a humble man, Sandy. That's why nobody's ever said a bad word about Sandy Hawley.
I guess I fooled them pretty well.
Not that's been audible. How's that?
Well, I've had some of the other jockeys say I was a gentleman off the track, but on the track, I wasn't such a gentleman.
Hey, that's when it matters. On the track,
that's right.
It matters. Hey,
you get to the head of the stretch, and it's like, okay, you're not my friend anymore.
Exactly. What are you up to these days, Sandy?
These days, I'm living in Lexington, Kentucky, and I'm sure you've heard of the great Pat Day.
Oh, yes.
He's an ordained priest now, and my wife, Carew, and he married us about 1.5 years ago.
Oh, great, yeah.
So Mr. McCarron's living here, Chris McCarron, and he was our MC at the wedding. And Steve Coughlin, he's not too far away either. He was our ring bearer. So we had a lot of fun at the wedding, and that's what I'm doing these days. I'm hanging out here in Lexington, Kentucky.
Oh, wow. See, they always great. See, the horses and some of the great horsemen always seem to wind up in Lexington, don't they?
You know what? They have a thing here. They have a jockeys reunion every year, Kenny, and I don't think there's anywhere in the world where so many riders get together and say hello and, have a reunion like they do here. There's like 30 jockeys, jockeys like Pat Day, Steve Coughlin, Chris McCarron, all these guys get together, Gene Kruger. And you know what? Next year, when they do it next year, it's probably going to be January, February. If you want to come, Kenny, you can be our guest.
Oh, I'd love to. I'd be honored. I mean, that's a Hall of Fame bunch you mentioned there. I mean, that's something to see, and it's great. That camaraderie is what I've always respected about the jockeys. The competitiveness and having to share the same dressing room, which nobody else does in sports. I guess maybe tennis does. I don't know, but nobody else. And you go hard at it.
You're right, Kenny. And I've had some people ask me too, what do I miss about riding? And of course the paychecks, but also you hit the nail on the head. It was the camaraderie in the jock room. We always had fun. We made it light and everything. Of course, when you get on the racetrack, you try and protect each other, but it's every man for himself. But in the jockey's room, we always had a great time.
Oh. And Sandy, it's been great catching up with you. We got to do this again soon.
Anytime, Kenny. It's been a pleasure, and you're a great interviewer, and I appreciate you having me on your show.
How'd you crew? And we'll have to get more stories about her writing. I got to ask Cassie about this. That's one of the best stories I've heard, hanging on all the way through.
We could be here for hours talking about stories about Carew. She's enlightened me about a few of the stories. Of course, as you know, she was the first female jockey to have a license in Japan at a major track, and she's got some great stories from there, I'll tell you.
Sandy, great to catch up. We'll do it again soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kenny.
Hall of Famer Sandy Hawley with us here on the Horse Racing Show. There's more coming up after this. Thank you for listening to us on Google Play, iTunes, iHeartRadio, one of our radio stations, or listening to us, watching us on YouTube. We appreciate that. Downloaded now in 22 countries. And one of the reasons is we have interesting guests like our next man here. He's the president of Spendthrift Farm, and what a celebration they've been having for a couple of weeks. Eric Gustafson joins us, and, of course, the majority owners of Derby Winner Authentic. Eric, great to have you on the show. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Kenny. Great to join you. I appreciate it.
I can only imagine everybody in this sport respects and loves Mr. B. Wayne Hughes, the owner of Spendthrift, your father-in-law. He came there 16 years ago, bought this very storied farm and has rebuilt it. And I remember just the emotions interviewing Bob Baffert after the race on NBC, how emotional he was for Mr. Hughes to win that race. I think Bob probably took as much pleasure in him winning it than he did his sixth championship.
Yeah, that's really true. Bob's such a good guy for the sport, and he did such an amazing job with Authentic, but he really had it in his heart about Wayne. We talked about this last year, and actually it was about our other horse, 1,000 Words, that we were blessed enough to have in the Derby as well. But he said, this is a Derby horse. We got to get a Derby for Wayne. And it came true, ironically, with a different horse, but it was really kind and thoughtful of Bob to care that much and for it to mean that much to him.
I found that to be one of the things about this horse business, because I didn't grow up in this world, but, obviously I've been doing it for a long time, covering it, is the many interesting stories and the relationships and some of the eccentric people that get involved and some of the just over-the-top fun people that get involved. And I think that's kind of what makes it all go for me, the storytelling part. I don't know if that's if from a business standpoint, if that ever appeals to men like you that are actually running these farms.
Oh, yeah. Horse racing is a pretty small community, relatively. I'm at the sale right now at Keeneland, and you go to all the sales around the country and you see all the same people. And, there's a large faction of fans out there, which is great, but the community in itself is relatively small, and there are a lot per capita, a lot of characters in this game, and it keeps it fresh and a lot of fun.
What was it like? This had to be kind of like, apologies to Mr. Dickens, but it's kind of like the worst of times then became the best of times. A tale of two horses. 1,000 words flips in the paddock, so automatically he's going to be scratched. So now you're down to one horse, Authentic.
Yeah.
What were you? I mean, this had to be, talk about the roller coaster ride, Eric. Can't even imagine what you were thinking when all this is going down before the race starts.
You hit it right on the head, Kenny. That is such a good way to put it. It was such a surreal day in the first place because, as you know, the typical Derby has 150, 170,000 people out there, and we're there, and it's just the connections and a few people. It's so it's next to no one in the stands, so it was really kind of strange and eerie the whole day. And then we get down to the paddock. And we're excited. We're blessed to have two horses in the Kentucky Derby after everything this crazy year. And then, as you say, 1,000 words flips. We're just, devastated. We have partners in that horse, and we're just looking at each other and don't even know what to say. And we felt so bad. But we were lucky enough to have at least another horse. So we went out to watch the race. And then he wins the dang thing. And he did it in such dramatic fashion with the big favorite, 'Tis the Law, coming up on his shoulder, and he just never let him by. And so we were so excited. And then we go to the winner's circle, and then the horse spooks and runs me over, and then we're up and getting a trophy and everything. I mean, it was crazy. It's so cliched. People say it's kind of like a dream, but I was standing up there talking to Brittany Urton and getting the trophy, and our general manager, Ned Coffey, was there with me, and I honestly couldn't quite grasp the reality of it at the time. It was the weirdest feeling, but I'll tell you what, the joy, the thrill of winning that race, I hadn't known it prior to now, and now I do, and that is one hell of a feeling, and I wouldn't mind having that again. That is hard to describe.
Eric Gustafson, the president of Spendthrift Farm, our guest here, the winner of the Kentucky Derby with Authentic. Eric, you mentioned that winner's circle. I'm sitting there thinking, because I think he might, I don't know if he got you on the foot or not. I see Baffert stumbling and going down. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, now I am covering a fight. I'm going to be talking to the guys who've been knocked around. It was crazy. And they're asking,
it was.
Yeah, they're asking, is Baffert okay? I said, well, I don't know. Brittany's talking to Eric. I'm going to be talking to Bob. I guess we'll find out if everybody survives.
Yeah, Bob just fell over. He was more concerned about his jacket when he got up, making sure he looked okay. But he did get a clip my ankle, and thankfully I went down because he kind of tripped me, and so I'm lying there, and for a split second I was just thinking, oh no, where's this next hoof coming? And thankfully Johnny V got him away, and it wasn't a big deal at all. So I have like a sprained ankle. It's nothing, but it made for quite an interesting experience. And then we got back in the place for the photo, and then the Authentic spooked a little bit more, and I just said, that's it for me. I went to the other end, and I'm not even in the win photo.
We'll Photoshop. They got to be able to Photoshop.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well, as far as now moving ahead, both horses going to the Preakness, perhaps. I think they're both under the care at the moment of Wayne Lucas, who's a pretty good assistant trainer, by the way. When Baffert told me he was going to send him over to Wayne for a few weeks, get ready for the Preakness. So Authentic and 1,000 Words, are they both pointed in 2 weeks to Pimlico?
Yeah, that's the idea, Kenny. He is. It's kind of neat to have him in Wayne's barn. We're going to go up Saturday morning and watch them work. They're both working Saturday morning. We talked to Bob here at the sales, and he said that, that's his intention, and we'll see how they go. And if nothing, if they don't tell him something other than that in the workouts, then we'll probably take both of them.
And, that's got to be something, maybe winning another leg of the Triple Crown. How good would that be for this crazy year? if you get Authentic, or you get 1,000 Words and you get 2 of the 3 jewels this year.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Either way, it would be incredible. You know, for 1,000 Words, he's got a shot. Never even thought about this until he won the Derby, but he's got a shot at you know, were he to go and win another one of these races here coming up, maybe the Breeders' Cup even,
Right.
at Horse of the Year, let alone, you know, at least a 3-year-old. So there, you know, everything's opened up, and that we, you know, it took us a while to even realize that, but it's kind of exciting to think about. And then we would love to have. I mean, how lucky would we be to have 2 horses, that one of each that won a leg of the Triple Crown in this crazy year.
What is that residue? Luck is the residue of hard work. I guess, you know, 16 years now. I believe that's how long you've been at the farm too, Eric. It's paying off pretty nice.
Yeah, it really is. It's been a lot of fun. You know, we have a great team at Spendthrift, and that's another testament to Wayne, the kind of people that he hires. We got so many great people working for us, and it was just so much fun for the team to share in that victory. I don't know if you've seen video from, because we had some of us were at the Derby, and then some of the team was at Wayne's house watching it. They had a little watch party, and it's really fun to watch them watching the horse come down the stretch and then cross the finish line first. And I just got goosebumps just now thinking about it, you know, to see that joy on everyone's face, especially Wayne's. It was incredible.
It is. It's an incredible moment and well-deserved. We're going to take a quick break. We're talking with Eric Gustafson, who is the president of Spendthrift Farm, the winner of the Derby with Authentic. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. Thank you for tuning in. President of Spendthrift Farm, Eric Gustafson, been a key part in rebuilding the farm. I think that's fair to say. When Mr. B. Wayne Hughes bought it in 2004, it's one of the old guard farms in Kentucky and in the horse racing industry. But let's face it had some down years. People really didn't pay much attention to Spendthrift at that time. They certainly have over the years, in recent years, with the likes of Beholder, a great stallion, Into Mischief, and now a Kentucky Derby winner in Authentic, and maybe 2 tries at the Preakness coming up with Authentic and 1,000 Words. I just did a commercial, didn't I, Eric? That was great.
Yeah, I'm just going to cut that out, and we're gonna use that.
You know, it is, and I think one of the great things about racing, I'm going to get into this too, because you've included literally thousands of people in racing now with one of your projects that paid off with Authentic. But, you know, when you think about the day and you look at the farms that were there that are no longer there, and so much partnership is involved now, it's rare. You don't have the 4 or 5, maybe 6 farms that you had in the 30s, 40s, and 50s that kind of controlled the industry. And obviously Spendthrift was one of them back in that day.
Right. Yeah. It's a bit of a circle, you know, some come and go, but some of the storied farms have either been here or have been brought back, us included. But there's kind of a core group of big farms in Kentucky, and then several smaller farms that do most of the stand most of the stallions in the state.
You guys come up with this really interesting concept, and I got to be honest, at first I thought, I don't know, probably a lot of people in the industry, especially, as you know, an industry that, look, as much as you care about it and like about it and work in it, and I've made my living covering a lot of races, you know, it's not one that always is looking for that new idea outside the box. But you come up with My Racehorse, where you could invest in a piece of the pie and get a piece of a horse, and one of the horses was Authentic. So I think you've got, I don't know how many, you got literally like over 1,000 technically owners, right, that have about 12% total of the horse.
Yes, right. So Wayne, that's another thing about Wayne. He's an innovator. He's not interested in how things have always been done. So he's kind of shook things up here in Central Kentucky from the start with his methods and thoughts, and one of those ended up being with My Racehorse. And to be fair, it wasn't Wayne's idea. There's a guy named Michael Behrens who runs My Racehorse, and we kind of caught on to it early and latched onto the idea, and Wayne just fell for it. And when he gets interested in something, he really pours himself into it. So we started working with Michael, and we invested some, and then to the point where we've become, even more invested in the company, because Wayne and the rest of us as well, the whole team is very, just very pro, just trying to grow the business. Really, we're trying to make this bigger and better. And Kenny, there were 5,300 My Racehorse owners with us celebrating the Derby.
Wow.
And it was incredible.
I'm going to guess that at least half that, maybe more than that, probably didn't, you couldn't tell them how long a furlong is, but they had a piece of kind of like getting a piece of the Green Bay Packers. And I have a buddy that has a piece of the Green Bay Packers and has a piece of Authentic because he got into this whole group thing.
Yeah.
Nick Gabriel.
Yeah. We've had a lot of great stories like that we've heard since immediately after, and they've continued to pour in people telling us these amazing stories about their experience and how much fun and joy that they got to be a part of having the Authentic win the Derby. It was, we didn't even realize how good this thing is until this point. It's really exciting, Kenny.
I bet you have a lot more friends, don't you? Everybody loves them.
Yeah, we got a lot of friends now. Well, we just keep getting reminded, you're out here and then you see somebody you haven't seen and they remind you of what happened. They congratulate you and then you get to experience it all over again and think about it and talk about it. And one of the big thrills for us, besides winning, is that the horse that won is by our best stallion, Into Mischief, who's the best stallion in America, and he is now sired a Derby winner, which was, he needed a classic winner. It was kind of the last box that he hadn't checked, so he's done that now too. So I mean, we've got an embarrassment of riches right now in our at our farm.
As you know, the key to life is timing, and with the horse sales coming up and Into Mischief, like you say, such a great year last year, and now gets that classic winner on Authentic. You got a lot of happy people around the farm, I would imagine, Eric.
Yeah, it's good for morale, that's for sure. I hope we don't have to do it every year now to keep it up.
That's it's like those people that have a hit record or a hit movie or a hit book or whatever. It's like, what do you do for an encore?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you didn't win the Derby next year. What's wrong?
Yeah. Like I say, I don't know sometimes even in the business if they realize. I know the people, they're really into it, but you know what I'm saying? Some of the people there, it's almost like for granted you're supposed to get, like Bob Baffert is supposed to be in the Derby every year. Bob and I've talked about that. Pletcher was supposed to be in the Derby. There's certain guys that are supposed to be in the Derby every year. And if they only have, like, say, one horse, it's almost a disappointment. But I guess that's good to get at that level, isn't it? Where I only had one horse in the Derby this year. Gee, it's a down year.
Yeah. It's hard, man. We went through a stretch, I don't know, 10 years ago or something like that where we had a horse, at least a horse in the Derby for 3 straight years. And it was like, okay, this is easy. And then we went for a drought for 5 or 6 years, and it's just tough to get them there. Everything has to go right. And as you know, it's only 3-year-olds that can run. So you got your one chance, and any little thing, we've had kind of thing where you're on the doorstep and then they get a little fever and they're out. They miss a week of training and then that's it. You're done. You're out of it. So you move on. You get to race in other races, but the Derby's gone, and it's hard to get there. So being there is so much fun. It's not like they say you've already won. It's not like that. You didn't, but it's fun to be there. But man, winning. Yeah. Oh my gosh, winning that thing is. I can't. I still can't get over it.
I hope that I'm going to ask you, because when I told some people I had, they said, "Yeah, do you remember Eric?" And he was also in the Hollywood business, some acting, producing. Is there any correlation between a very tough game, which is the Hollywood game, the whole acting, producing world? I have some friends who have done that, and horse racing, and I kind of think they're both awful tough because you hope for that one break, and sometimes luck plays a big part in it, no matter how much talent and right horse, right time, or right break in a movie or a TV series. Am I generalizing too much about trying to make a comparison here, Eric?
No, I don't think so. I think that's fair. It's similar in that it's you gotta stick around. The people, some of the people get a lucky break, and that happens here as well. Somebody gets a first horse and they go to the Derby and they win. It's just like, then the people that have been doing this for decades never get to experience that. It's so there's that element, and there's the element that you touched on earlier, where it's a grind. You got to do the work, you got to put in the time, and it's very glamorous to win the Derby, but all the other stuff going in is to get that to that point is just like in an acting or a producing career. It takes time and effort and luck.
Well, we wish you the best of luck going forward with hopefully Authentic and 1,000 Words in the Preakness. And I know you're busy. You got the horse sales going on. I can't thank you enough for your time, and pass along all the congratulations to Mr. B. Wayne Hughes and everybody at Spendthrift, Eric.
Will do, Kenny. Thanks so much. Thanks for what you do. I really appreciate you.
Well, thank you, and look forward to getting back in touch, maybe with the Preakness winner soon. So all the best.
Oh, man. Thanks. That would be fun. Let's do it.
All right. President of Spendthrift Farm, Eric Gustafson. What a great job he does. What a great job everybody out there has done, especially in recent years. And it's all going great right now with the Derby winner. We'll be back with more of the Horse Racing Show right after this. Welcome back in. A few minutes to go here on the Horse Racing Show. Thank you to Sandy Hawley, the Hall of Fame jockey. Great stories, especially about his involvement with the National Hockey League Los Angeles Kings. Eric Gustafson of Spendthrift Farm. What a year they are having. They have one of the great stallions out there, Into Mischief, who now is the sire of a Derby winner, Authentic. And it looks like Authentic and 1,000 Words, both going on to the Preakness. Interesting time of the year. It's been just a year. We know that, folks. But what's really interesting is usually this time of the year, I'm in Baltimore, getting ready for the Preakness just 2 weeks after the Derby. Obviously, 2 more weeks to go before the Preakness is run, the last leg of the Triple Crown. But as Eric was telling us, what would it mean to Spendthrift Farm to win 2 legs of that Triple Crown this year? Maybe with Authentic, maybe 1,000 Words, regroups and is ready to run in that. And that's the beauty of the Triple Crown. Winning a classic race has so much value for the stallion, for all that's involved with the farm that breeds the winner of a Triple Crown race. So much on the line still in the Preakness, even in this very strange year, even in a year where there will be no Triple Crown. The importance of the Preakness coming up in 2 weeks, not lost on anyone in the horse racing business. And even without fans, it's still a special day. And I think we're all getting used to no fans at most places, like the Breeders' Cup making their announcement. No fans this year. And, of course, Keeneland following up. No fans will be there for them at their October meet. And that's just what's expected. Thank goodness you can watch it on TV. I think horse racing, more than any other sport, has done well during this whole pandemic because of the ability for off-track wagering to be able to get onto your phone and make your bets. And that's probably why racing throughout the whole pandemic has continued on when other sports were not doing it, when other sports joined the party a little late. Okay, so that's it for this week. Next week, we'll talk more about the Preakness, and we'll be talking with the Hall of Famer, D. Wayne Lukas. Until then, I'm Kenny Rice. Thanks for tuning in.